I think if you look at the history of startups, some of the most ambitious and successful companies of the last generation were actually started in a recession. You look at companies like Slack, Uber, WhatsApp, Venmo, Taobao. These were started, right at the peak of the financial crisis, and that's really testament to the drive and ambition of the founders that created them. I think what we're seeing right now in the current situation is that some of the world's most ambitious and talented people use huge disruptions like the one we're seeing now globally as fuel for their ambitions. There's always room to do something differently, and every crisis presents an opportunity, and I think for a lot of people that opportunity is front of mind right now. We've seen this both in the people who are now applying to EF, but also in our existing portfolio. If you look at a company like Accurix, one of the companies that we funded in London, they've been serving the health sector for a long time. As a result of the coronavirus situation, they created a remote consultation tool for family doctors. I was only 2 months ago, and they've already had 1 million video consultations go through that product. They now have over 90% of UK doctors on their platform. Or you look at one of our Singapore companies like Greywing, which works in the physical security space. They reacted really rapidly to build a tool that helps ships stranded at sea to respond to the current situation and figure out their threat level. So I would say, if you think that you have that level of ambition, that sort of restlessness about what it is you want to do with your life and how you want to maximize the impact of your career, I think now's a great time to look at the world and say, there's so much opportunity, there are so many problems to be solved. I think it's totally understandable to feel like, I can just hold fire, give it 6 months, wait for the crisis to abate and start a company then when things are back to normal. But I actually feel that would be a really bad reason to delay and potentially gets you into quite a dangerous mindset. One of the things I've definitely learned, having funded through EF over 2,000 individuals, is you're never going to feel like now is the perfect time, because there's always going to be something that gets in the way until you make it your priority. That was true for me and Alice too. We were 25 when we started EF. We had really very little experience. We did not feel ready. And in many ways we weren't ready. But I think that's one of the joys of entrepreneurship, one of the reasons that it's such a powerful tool for ambitious people, is that it allows you to get started when you're not ready. Actually waiting until I was more qualified to start EF wouldn't have actually yielded a better result. The only way we've really ever made progress at EF is by testing and iterating and just trying to keep forward momentum. And when I look at the founders that I've got to know really well through Entrepreneur First, I think that's just a very, very common pattern in what we see. I think with entrepreneurship, the only way to be certain that you'll fail is to do nothing. You always, as an entrepreneur, have to act fast. You have to keep up momentum. You have to adjust to the state of the world. When I look at the tools that are being built right now by entrepreneurs that are helping the world move through this crisis, I think it's pretty clear that we owe actually a great deal to founders who are brave enough to take that leap forward and propel us into a better future. I think one of our alumni put it really well on our podcast, where they said the best time to start a company was yesterday. The second best time is today, and I think that's absolutely true right now. I think the thing is that entrepreneurship is always risky. There's a sort of irreducible element of that, and it's high risk and it's high reward where it pays off. The reason we think it's the best option for the world's most talented and ambitious people is because we believe that entrepreneurship allows people the best chance of success and the biggest upside, the most scale of impact if you do succeed. There's no better feeling for me as a founder than seeing people join us from places like Google or Goldman Sachs or some of the world's great education institutions, and seeing not only their own lives transformed through entrepreneurship, but seeing the huge impact that their companies have as well. Rather than being swallowed by a corporate or academia and sort of getting trapped in bureaucracy or kind of climbing the career ladder, they actually get to kind of be in a situation straight away where the only limit on their impact is the company that they build. So, the purpose of Entrepreneur First, the reason that we created it, is to try and mitigate some of the risk that comes from entrepreneurship. As I say, you can't take it away completely, but there are lots of things that we can and do to help people succeed. We provide a stipend for day one. That's one of the reasons we put so much effort into selecting the cohort from such a large pool of applicants. Is we're going to be betting on these people for day one financially. We want to make sure that, it's certainly not the highest paid thing you could do. If it was, then something's probably gone wrong. But it should reduce the financial downside of starting a company. But more importantly, in a way, we spent almost 10 years curating and nurturing this global community of founders and investors who are there to provide the support from the beginning, both in terms of giving you the best chance of success for your company, but also being an incredible network to find your next opportunity if it doesn't work out. So yeah, for sure, the risk is always there, but I think starting a company through EF is one of the best ways to reduce that risk. The reason we pay you a stipend from day one, and the reason we've spent so long building up a global network of investors from Europe, Asia, and crucially and increasingly from Silicon Valley too, is to remove some of the financial constraints and challenges of starting a company. I think if you look at the venture capital industry, it's certainly true that a lot of firms are taking a more cautious approach in the current climate. What I would say, though, and what we're seeing, kind of in our work, is that that's happening largely at the bottom end of the market, where probably too many things were getting funded in the first place. But one thing that we're really encouraged by is actually what we're seeing in our portfolio since the lockdown is it's been one of the busiest periods of fundraising we've ever seen. I think that's driven by the quality of companies we're lucky to have at EF, by the fact that we have some great companies that are actually making faster and more progress during the crisis. But it's definitely very heartening for us as investors. We held our last European demo day at the end of March, so only a few weeks ago. We've already seen 3 companies get term sheets, including from US investors. And I'm absolutely confident, we see it every day, that the money is still there, capital is still there for companies that look highly promising and look like they can have really enormous impact. Historically, we have always run EF in person, but starting with the current European cohort, our 14th, we've moved to an entirely remote program. And, I think slightly, even to our own surprise, we're just seeing fantastic results. By the end of the first week of team building, almost 90% of the cohort in London were already in their first team. Some of those teams are already bringing in revenue. They've secured pilots with big companies. Some of them have already shipped products. We're really seeing a lot of momentum build already. I think that's really a testament to the caliber of people that make it onto EF. For sure, not being able to meet in person can feel like a barrier and a blocker, but it's amazing how resourceful great entrepreneurs can be, and we're really seeing very limited downside at the moment from this way of working. We've also already had 2 demo days that we've done remote, one in Singapore for our Asia companies and one in London for our European companies. And we just held our first remote investment committee to make investment decisions for the latest Bangalore and Singapore cohorts. And what we're finding is these processes are actually translating to remote really well. So for our last demo day in Europe, typically for an in-person demo day, we would expect to get maybe 500 investors come along in person. We had 2,000 people log in and watch the videos online. And I think that's one of the reasons that despite the economic downturn, we've still seen those teams get funded. So, I really do think that as a company, we're really well placed for this temporarily all remote world. We're lucky that most of our normal interactions can be taken online. And I think, our existing community is of both of founders and of investors is, plus the enormous amount of work we do to curate each cohort, just means that it's even more valuable now. So much harder today, in this world of lockdowns, to go out and find the right people to work with. But at EF, that's all done for you. And as I said, we're seeing that people are actually able to form really strong bonds and make fantastic progress in this online world. So we're really excited about that. So So in all the years of running EF, and I think we've funded over 2,000 people now across the world, I don't think we've ever seen a single person struggle to get a job at the end of EF if they don't found a company. Partly that's just because of the incoming caliber of people. We're obviously recruiting people who are pretty exceptional to begin with, and people are queuing up to give them jobs. And that's the advantage of having both a great applicant pool and a really rigorous investment process and selection process. But I think it's also because people actually do become more employable as a result of joining the program. Whether you end up founding a company or not. Partly it's the skills that you learn. I think kind of entrepreneurial skills have never been more valuable in workplaces of all sizes. But I think it's also that we embed people in a global community of entrepreneurs who are themselves looking to hire. Even in these very disrupted times, we're seeing our portfolio companies continuing to hire very quickly. And it's very, very common to see people who are on an EF program and don't found a company being hired by their friends and colleagues from the cohort who do, or indeed from our older portfolio. I think one thing that we're seeing with coronavirus is it's sort of shaking up the world and reordering priorities, and that means that it's also reordering the winners. And I think it's very, very clear that software companies are particularly well positioned in the current environment. And what that means is that technology companies, software companies like the companies in the EF portfolio, are actually in many cases thriving right now, and as I said, creating jobs and hiring people. So this is not something we really worry about. We think actually being part of the EF community is a huge bonus in an environment like the one we're all in today. I'd say don't miss out. This could be the biggest opportunity of your life. It's amazing when I look back and see the impact that joining EF has had on many, many hundreds of people's lives. Often we think about opportunity cost as being, kind of, what if I become an entrepreneur? What am I missing out on? I'm going to forego a year of either earning or education or something else. I think it's often healthy to think about it the other way around. What's the opportunity cost of not starting a company? In general, what we find is that there are a relatively small number of windows of opportunity in people's lives where starting a company makes sense. And if you don't snatch those opportunities, they can disappear very quickly. I think the upside from starting something and finding out that it works is just so enormous. I mean, starting Entrepreneur First has absolutely transformed my life. If you're seeing this video, it's because we're confident that you have what it takes to create something really significant. We're here to help you. We've done this for hundreds, actually thousands of people around the world like you. We're here to provide all the support that you need. So whether you found a company with us or you go on to join the community in another way at EF will always be, I think, the hardest and sort of most impressive thing that you ever do. So if you even have the slightest sense that it might be for you, do apply and accept this as your next challenge. I look forward to meeting you.